Now, you said, though, that your fans consider you a feminist, right?
Yes. And I consider myself a feminist.
Perfect. That's cool.
Are we going to bring up the abortion discussion now?
I was going to do that, right? Now, in fact, no. Let's back up with, in terms of like feminism, right? Now, so like, why are you still a quote unquote like feminist? Like, do you feel like women are still behind the 8 ball, or do you feel like right now it's equality, it's equal?
I mean, I don't think that everything is perfectly equal, but I think even if women like gained more rights, like I could still call myself a feminist. I don't have to not call myself that label just because more things have been accomplished.
No, true. Now, also too, though, right? Like when it comes to, let's say, like abortion, Roe versus Wade being like an overturned. What's your take on Roe versus Wade being overturned?
I'm afraid of how strict the laws are going to get in some of the more Republican states. Like, personally, I think, like, okay, so some things that I like learned recently in this week that I, at first glance, would have thought would be radical things. Like, I read that in Canada, like, you can have an abortion at almost any time in your pregnancy, but that like almost no doctor would perform an abortion for you after 20 weeks. But if you're in a case where like the mother is going to die if the abortion isn't performed at like 35 weeks, they don't have to call a judge and wait 8 hours to get permission in order to perform the abortion. They can just save a life. And obviously these are like the rare occasions for abortion, but like a big part of the debate that's missing is that like most women aren't trying to abort children in the 3rd trimester. They are trying to abort children very, very early in the first term. And like everyone is talking about all the outside cases. And I personally believe that like a woman should be able to abort a child just because it's not the right time for her. Yes, I do think that she should take as many precautions to not get pregnant in the first place if she doesn't want that. But I do believe that she should have the right to have an abortion. And obviously if she's going to die if she doesn't have an abortion, for like a baby that she wants. Like women are getting pregnant and they're wanting the child, they have a name for the child, they have a nursery for the child, and then they have to have an abortion because they're going to die if they don't, or the child is going to come out with a really bad genetic defect that is going to make them have a worse life than they would have had if they didn't have that defect. And so now, personally I'm pro-choice.
Here, so like so like the last point though, like I don't think that she should dictate, like, rather not, like, for example, if it's like, like, if you give birth to the kid, he's going to have, like, autism and have, like, a bad life.
Well, they can't detect autism. So you have your baby if it has autism, no matter what. It's more like, is your baby going to have, like, Down syndrome? Or and some people are against that. They think, like, why should you get rid of babies who have Down syndrome? We should just have a community of kids who have Down syndrome. And that's fine for you, and that should be your choice if you want to raise a kid with Down syndrome. But if you don't want to raise a kid with Down syndrome, that should also be your choice. And I do know that there have been, like, tests that have come out with, like, false positives for things. And so those situations are sad if you abort a child that might have not had Down syndrome. But I also think that should just be someone's choice. They should be able to make that call for themselves.
Not quite, right? So
that's your opinion.
No, right? Here, no, not quite, right? So okay, so here, right? So like first off, right? Let's just like talk about like Roe v. Wade, right? So
okay,
right?
You want to talk about the actual case?
No. Like here, right? So like okay, so if the federal government is saying, listen, we're gonna overturn it and leave it up to the states to decide. You were born and raised in California, right? So your morals and beliefs are way different from somebody born down. Yeah,
but
like
I still come
south,
from
right?
like a conservative family background who's very Christian. So you know, it's like I do see like the religious point of view and stuff.
Exactly, right? But like, okay, so look, if somebody, right, let's say, listen, like I'm down south, I'm in Alabama. If Lena the Plug like grew up in California, right? And if like let's say like 75% or 70% of people in Alabama, if they are anti-abortions, why shouldn't but the state of Alabama, be able to say, listen, if the majority of us is against this shit, why shouldn't we ban it if that's what the state of Alabama wants?
Because there's 25% of the population that lives there that doesn't have a choice in their own family planning and in their own body. And why is it like the decision of the rest of the people who live there to decide for those other 25%?
Yeah, we don't do that for anything else. It's like if there's 40%, let's say 40% of the population thinks that people shouldn't smoke weed. Well, we don't let that, like we shouldn't let that dictate that everybody else can't smoke weed. We look at states that have, you know, restrictive laws about alcohol and shit as just being ridiculous, right? Like, I think alcohol should be sold 24 hours a day whenever the fuck people want to buy alcohol. I'm pro freedom.
And I feel
That's why I'm pro
those
choice.
like religious people feel like, oh, you guys just want to go be promiscuous and not deal with the consequences. And it's like, it's not actually like that. Like, they're just painting it in a very framing it in a very religious way. And it's almost like the conversation is kind of like slut shamey. Like, you're telling people that they can't have sex almost. Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but it's just like, it's too religious, the point of view.
Now, like when Adam says like we never do that, but like yes we do, right? Because again, for example, like the passing and legalizing of like marijuana, right?
Right.
Now, if let's say like 80% of the people in let's say like New York were anti-passing that bill, then the lawmakers probably wouldn't pass it, right? So like, why shouldn't it be across the board, right? Especially with something like abortion, and also too like
this country is about freedom, and for the same reason that I think that people should be able to buy and possess marijuana, I think that you know, when we look at drugs, there are some drugs where the societal consequences of them being legal would be too disastrous for us to deal with, like meth or fucking heroin or whatever, for sure. I mean, in terms of abortion, this is a very personal choice. It doesn't really affect all those. If there's 70% of people in Texas that are anti-abortion, some girl having an abortion doesn't affect them, and it shouldn't be any of their fucking business. Now, I understand what you're saying. Like the point of view, if somebody genuinely believes that abortion's murder, then they should, and they are doing a great job at fighting for the ability to at least have some states where abortion's damn near illegal. But you know, from my perspective, I think abortion should be fully legal. I'm not saying it should be legal into the 8th fucking month, but I think that we should have a liberal amount of months that they could get an abortion.
And like, do you think that, again, like, we aren't, you know, like talking about like a sickly female or like a dead baby, right? Like, you know, just like a normal case of I got pregnant, I'm let's say a 22-year-old female, you feel me? I made some bad choices. I just want to, you know, like get rid of it. Now, do you think that right there is murder at some point? No?
I think it's better to get rid of the fetus early, but if she doesn't, let's say she's like a drug addict and she got pregnant and she's not even aware of what's going on with her body, and she doesn't realize like what's going on until the 3rd or the 4th month, which we could be very small in your pregnancy still at that time. Yeah. Do I think that she should be able to get an abortion? Yes, because obviously that kid is not going to be born into the best circumstances. But no, like, I feel like you're trying to ask me if I think that like having an abortion at 7 months is a good idea, and like I don't.
No, right? So here, right? So you just said though, right, that like you would be okay with that kid being aborted because he'll be born in some bad circumstances.
Yeah, and the mom, if the mom doesn't want you, why should we have a set of kids born to moms who don't want them? Having a kid is one of the hardest jobs in the world, and I agree with abortion more now that I'm a mother. It's like I was able to set my life up in a way where I'm able to give all of myself to Parker. And like, if I had to just have her and leave her with like my mom or a nanny and never see her, and like, that's not the best circumstance for her. And I'm just glad that I was able to do this on my terms. And I would have hoped that like, if I did, I've never been pregnant before I had Parker, but if I was pregnant, if I got pregnant in college, I would be happy that I would have to be able to finish college without having a baby and have an abortion. And I think that other girls should be able to do that, because they should be able to dictate their life and their career when men can. Like, if you got a girl pregnant at 20, like, you could go off and just live your life.
And also, too, though, if I got her pregnant and that's my kid, right, and she wants to kill it, I have no say in that, right?
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Is that right?
Yeah, but I feel like...
How's that right, though?
I mean, how would we put that into effect if the guy was going to have a say?
But do you want to pay...
Could have an abortion? How would we possibly be able to really involve a guy in that?
Or say this, though, right? Like here, right? So like, for example, though, right? If I can't choose to choose, right, but to save my child, right? Then before the child is born, I should have a way to say, yo, listen, like, if men can't choose to like, and save their child, but then like men should be able to say, yo, listen, I don't want nothing but to like do with it. I'm not going to pay like child support, right? So like my thing is this, right? If men don't want it and she wants to keep it, and we're still forced to deal with the consequences like child support, et cetera, then how's it right if we don't want, no, if we want it and she don't want to keep it, she can just kill it. Like shit, also too, right?
Ooh, 2 bodies.
Like also too, right? If I
The
kill,
same
right?
way that everyone thinks that women should be making sure that they could deal with the consequences of a pregnancy if it happened, men, I guess, should be doing the same. Like, what would they do in that situation if someone got pregnant and if they don't want to keep it?
If someone got pregnant and didn't want to keep it, and the guy do?
If they're, you have to. Everyone's looking at women like, oh, be responsible, be responsible, be responsible. But like men now have to be a part of that conversation too. Like, could you deal with the consequences of your actions if you choose to have sex?
Yeah, right. Also true, right? And then also too is like this situation of like, yo.
So
man,
what is your opinion? What do you think? Because I feel like you're playing devil's advocate.
No, here, right? So okay, so my personal opinion, right, is like, for example, if I kill, let's say, a pregnant female, right, it counts as double murder. So hence, we've always established that that fetus is a life, right? Because again,
because you're assuming that that woman is gonna carry it until she gives birth. But if you if you kill a pregnant woman and she's 1 week pregnant, it's the same, right?
yes.
Okay.
Right? It counts as double murder. So we've established that that's
1 week?
Well, right?
That seems...
Josh, fact check us.
Right?
I don't know. I mean...
It still counts as murder. So how come, like, that life still counts if I kill it, right? But, like, she can say, so listen, like, it's, you know, I'm like 20 weeks...
Pro-choice means
pregnant.
that it should be the woman's right to make the choice
About her
if
own
she
body.
wants to kill her own, let's not say kid, let's say fetus.
Well, it's her body, but that kid's life, though, right?
Well, when it becomes a kid is the question, and when and if the cutoff period should be very early or a bit later. That's really the question.
But I think that people who are like the pro-life people, I believe, think that the pro-choice people think that women want to be carrying babies until 38 weeks and then just decide like, oh, I want to kill it now, which is not true.
I think that now, like, where there's like resources, like let's say adoption, right, where like you can just like have the
How
kid.
many kids are in the system who are not adopted right now? Look up that number.
And like, would you say though, like that's better than like being dead?
I think if you interviewed a bunch of foster kids,
Yeah. Now, come on, like we can't say that being dead.
I don't think
is
they
better
would
than
necessarily
being
want
in
to
the
be
foster
dead,
system.
but like, can you look at their life and think that they always have like a better life than if the mom just like wanted to wait and have that kid later? Because a lot of women who go in to get abortions are already moms.
And I just think that the woman having control and having autonomy over her own body overrides everything. It's such an important thing for us as human beings
If
to
you
be
were
able
the
to
one
make
to
those
get
choices.
pregnant and have to decide, you would probably think a little bit differently.
I feel like if there's options of, yo, if I give birth to this kid, again, I'm saying like she's completely healthy, right? And there's no issues to the kid.
So you would abort if the kid had Down syndrome.
Me, no, right?
Okay.
But like if they say, yo, listen, man, like this kid, right, is gonna die like within in like a week of him being born, then I can see, you know, all right, cool. But like if it's just like cancer or like Down syndrome, I think, right, that kid still has a right to fight for his life. You feel me?
If it's just
without her killing him.
But don't you think it should be the choice of the parent of whether or not they want to parent that kid and have that kid in their life when they already have, let's say, other kids?
It is their choice, right? They can like choose to
So
like
you do believe it should be their choice?
here, right? They can like choose to either give it up for adoption or keep the kid, and that's the choice that like they should have, not whether or not that kid who's God's creation should die or not. You know?
So you think even in the case of rape, a woman should carry a baby and then get pregnant and give it up for adoption?
Now that's the hard part, right? Like because rape, like how do I like sit here and say like I should force a woman to carry her rapist baby? Now that's the sketchy
and what
part.
if
You
the
should
kid
not.
What if the kid is there was a case in Brazil, a girl 11 years old got raped and the country made her carry her baby until 9 months and give birth to it?
Now to me that's hard, right? That's tough. Like ultimately,
How is that tough? That's
Again,
that's a slam
She's a kid
dunk.
and
Yeah.
she lost her life because
course.
someone decided to rape her and then she
Yeah.
had to have a baby at 11 years old.
you're right. It's things like that, right? Like where like it's conflicting with like my faith, right? Like for example, like my faith is saying like under like no fucking circumstances, right? Like should a kid be murdered, right? Like every human being has should have an opportunity to live their life. But then when I hear that,
What if the mom's gonna die if she gives birth?
Can't we all agree that your faith should have nothing to do with the law?
Yeah, your faith shouldn't dictate what I believe. We're allowed to believe in different gods.
You can have whatever fucking dumbass, crazy, cooked up belief about how God would hate abortion or whatever. That's totally fine for you, but to inflict that upon everybody else is the kind of sinister thing.
I think it's like for example, though, right? So like we have like laws, right, based on like what's like best for our society, right? So if somebody, let's say in Alabama, if their society is saying that, yo, that's like that right there counts as murder, and we don't believe that should be right, then I believe they should, be able to like rule themselves opposed to somebody in California saying, yo, Alabama, Oklahoma, you guys are fucking pieces of shit for having abortions.
70% of Texans agree that gay sex was wrong, do you think gay sex should be outlawed in Texas? No, because of course.
You do?
Everybody
really
should be able to do whatever the fuck they want to do if it doesn't hurt
bodies,
anybody else.
Yeah.
I know you're going to say the baby's the ones that get hurt. Okay, but
I think though, right, like, again, like, as a society, like, our like personal moral compass don't matter. It's what as a collective like does, right? So like,
the moral compass should be oblivious to what the majority of people think.
A lot of the country would think that like what I do for a living is not a real job. And if they all voted, it was wrong. Or if they voted that way, I wouldn't be able to work, and he wouldn't be able to work.
I think I should be able to do porn in Oklahoma, regardless of what people think of it.
I feel like if like the Princess of Dubai, right, like if the people of Dubai says, yo, listen, like we want our females, like to not be out there like that, and the majority of Dubai agrees that like, that like having like females, let's say on like OnlyFans or Pornhub, if that's not conducive to like a productive society, if they vote on that, then like who are we to say, yo, they are a piece of shits, right? Because they won't let women, like get naked, and
well, I do think
online.
Dubai is a pretty fucked up place for that. I'm not going to Dubai.
Yo, listen, but let's
just breeze past abortion.
Yeah, past that.
We know where we both stand now.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching my No Jumper interview. Please make sure that you check out my new podcast, Touchy Subject, on my YouTube channel. I have 2 episodes out right now with Sky Bree and Kazumi, and the 3rd one's coming out this week with Adam, and our interview gets a little spicy, so make sure you check it out, youtube.com/LenaThePlug. Okay.